Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over a series of video presentations for our textbook, which is the Naylor textbook called ASP.NET MVC with Entity Framework and CSS for the AWD that's Application and Web Development 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class at Rankin Technical College. I've been going over Chapter 14, and we're up to the top of page 472, and we want to talk about inline and block display. All right. The key thing to realize with inline and block, it says there's two kinds of boxes. Well, again, if you look at this, and I'm just going to give you a couple real simple examples. If I come in here and I type in a paragraph, so let me make this a little bit bigger. So if I come in here and say, this is a paragraph. When that actually renders on the screen, there will be a blank line. Then it'll say this is a paragraph. Then there'll be another blank line. So when I use a P tag, that's called a block level element, meaning there's automatically going to be a blank line before it and a blank line after it. On the other hand, if I say this is a paragraph and I come in here and put a strong tag right here, that will bold the word paragraph. That will bold that word, but it will not put it on another line. So when you have a block level tag, it'll put a blank line before and after whatever your contents are. If you've got an inline level tag, it will not do so. All right. So a block level tag creates a line break before and after it. Examples are div and paragraph. Inline tags run in line with, and they don't have any line breaks before or after. Span and strong are examples. Okay. If you want to change the behavior of an element, you can do so by using the display property, setting it to block, inline, or inline block. You do some of that kind of stuff. When you end up using a, sorry, I'm getting a bunch of mail, so let me close my mail. There we go. All right. You'll end up typically using some of that when, for example, you're setting up menus and you want a menu to all go in the same line. We'll look at that in a little bit. All right, it says if it sounds a little confusing, let's take a look at an example. This is not going to be that different from the example I showed you earlier. It's fine though. All right, let's run through it. All right, move this out a little bit. You can see how I like to take and move my stuff out. Not everybody agrees with the way that I set stuff up, all right, which is fine. All right, we've all got our own personal styles. So let's grab that. Oops, what I did there, oh, I know what I did. All right, let's come back to here and paste that in. Sorry, this will take just a moment. Again, the reason I'm doing this is, in my humble opinion, quite often, this is the best way to learn this stuff. All right? So what do we have here? Let's just take it from the top. We've got our HTML tags. I'm not going to go through those. But here are our style tags. So this is internal CSS. This says the text color of the body should be white. Sorry, yeah, the text color. Now, if we didn't want to use white in there, we could have said pound FFF, FFF, or even pound FFF, but it's fine. This says if we've got anything with the class of styled, we are to give it 10 pixels of padding, and that's top, right, bottom, left. 20 pixels of margin, again, top, right, bottom, left. The background color should be red, and it should have a solid 4-pixel black border around it. Any div should have a background color of blue. All right, by default. So notice this div has a style of, or a class of styles. So that's going to have this. It'll have the padding, the margin, the background color should be red, and the border should be black. This is just another div. No class associated with it, so that should have a background color of blue. So we'll call this one CSS styles.html. Oops, try that again. Okay, try that again. File, save as, put that on the desktop. What's going on? It says the file cannot be saved. You want to launch? Sure. Why? I've never seen that happen before, but that's fine. I think it's because I was trying to save it in the admin folder. So CSS styles.html. All right. So again, this one should be styled, so it should look like this. The background color should be red. It should have padding and margin, and it should have a border. This one has no class, so it should have a background color of blue. Let's see if that's correct. There's our first one. There's our second one. Exactly what we expected to have happen. All right, and that's what they show you here. It says the page is very simple, but there are several things going on here that you should recognize. First of all, it has an example of inheritance. Both divs inherited their text color from the body style. You may or may not have noticed that. See how white text? Where did they get that from? Right here. Since we didn't change the color, not the background color, but the color anyplace else, it inherited from body, which is its parent. Okay? Secondly, it has an example of another cascading style rule. The more specific style wins. In this case, although we included the formatting of divs after the style class, the div with the style class is not blue because it had a specific class assigned to it. All right? So the top div was formatted. It had margins, it had border, it had padding. All right. It says we're going to use Google Chrome to view the box model of the first div element to explain how the style affects it. Google Chrome provides excellent developer support. Hence, I have chosen to use that throughout the book. To see this box model of the first div, all right, it says here we are supposed to bring up the first div. So go in our run. All right, right mouse click on it and choose inspect. All right, this brings up the Chrome developer tools. All right. So this opens up the developer tools pane of Chrome, and the div is highlighted. You can see it in blue down below. It shows all right, when you take a look through here, it shows you the size. So here it is, and here are its attributes. It got the 10 pixels of padding, the 20 pixels of margin, the background color of red, and the border of black. It got all that stuff from the styled class. If we click on the other div, you'll notice all that has is a background color of blue. Now they do show in the book, and I guess I was wrong because they do have a picture right here. And this is on the bottom of page 475. They're showing you that's what it looks like. So in here is our content. Around our content, we've got 10 pixels of padding all the way around it. After that, we've got a 4-pixel border. This all would be black, but they're showing it to you like this so you can see it. Outside of the border, you've got 20 pixels of margin. So the author says here, understanding the box model is extremely powerful and useful. Without it, you are effectively flying blind when writing CSS. All right. So let's look at the baby store and how this is going to change now. All right. We are now going to make some practical changes to the existing baby store site developed in the previous chapters. Start by opening the baby store solution and examining the views shared layout CSS file. Well, I have that. Or I thought I had it and I brought up the wrong. Okay, that's fine. There it is. All right, so under views, we want to bring up the views shared, and we want the layout.cshtml file, which will come up momentarily. There it is. All right. It says the line that loads the CSS bundle is in our styles render, and it's the one that says content CSS. So it's the one, it's actually the line right there. All right. It says the code that defines what goes into each bundle is contained in the app start bundle config CSS file. There's the app start, there's the bundle config.css file. It says open this file and inspect the code. Bundles are added via the register bundles method. This method currently adds 5 bundles of 2 types, script bundle and style bundle. The code that creates them is in the bundles.add, as you see right here. Now, before we change this, let's go out here and let's go, again, it's been a while since we brought this thing up, and let's go to our views, and we'll just go to home, and try the index page here. Let's run this in the browser. Or view it in the browser. All right. Says there were errors building the project. You want to continue with the preview anyway? Yes. Not sure why we would have gotten errors. I'm opening up their file. The reason I'm showing you this is what I want to do right here is to show you, kind of, for lack of better words, sort of the before picture. All right. Open that up accidentally. And it's still thinking about it. Hopefully it's going to bring this up for us. Still thinking about it. Close some of these. I've got a lot of stuff open here. There it is. There's our baby store right now. Okay? And it doesn't look terrible, but the idea is we'd like to make it look better than it does right now. All right? So we'll leave that up, or at least try to, and see. Probably it's going to make me close. No, it's not. Good. All right. So it says now we want to add our own style sheet. So if we look under content right now, we don't have one called store.css. We are told to right mouse click on here, choose add, new item. Now I could go down here and choose style sheet, might as well do that. All right. add a new style sheet named store.css. All right, so hit enter. That should put store.css inside of here momentarily. There is store.css. Now there's nothing in it by default other than a body tag that's empty. That's fine. Let's hit enter here. There we go. So next, update the styles bundle to go and add that particular tag. Oops, rid of that. Sorry about that. That is the first part of the lecture that I've already produced. All right, so we want to come in here and add our own to this, so I'm going to grab this code and stick it right down. Okay, I want to take that and put it in the app start bundle config. There's our bundle config. We've got it. We want to put it right underneath our last bundle to add. All right. And we'll put it right there. All right. Line stuff up so it looks pretty much like the other ones do. Okay. See, that's good enough. All right. Now it says start the website without debugging, and it should look just like it did before. Well, think about why it looks just like it did before. We have not put anything into our CSS, into this one yet. There's nothing in there. So let's do this. We will save. We will go back as we did before. We will go back to our layout. I'm sorry, to our index.css, and just like we did before, let's view it in the browser. Right, again, I got to fix those errors. I don't know what they are, but this is how it looked. All right, and there's how it looks now. So notice, as I go back and forth, there are no differences, and there shouldn't be. All right. All right, so far so good. It says some of the links may be purple to reflect that they have been visited. I haven't clicked on any of them, so they're not. All right. All right. The aim of removing all of the bootstrap styling from the website is to get the site to a base point where it can be restyled by adding some new custom styles. However, although all the styles have been removed, the base point has not yet been reached. I mentioned to you before that by default, unless told otherwise, that's my definition of default, the browser automatically adds a certain amount of CSS onto any web page. All right? We want to remove that, so we want to create what's called a CSS reset. We'll do this, and then we'll be done with this part of the lecture. So it says this is available, so if I go out there, so I'm going to just grab, this is Eric Meyer. Eric Meyer is kind of like the godfather of CSS. I'm adding his reset. Let's see, it looks like it's on 2 different pages, so we will grab it from here. Oh my goodness, come on. So we want to update the contents of content reset CSS, and I don't even know if that's in there, but we'll look. So I'm going to click there. And there. Copy that to the clipboard. Let's see if we've got a reset.css, and if we don't, we'll include one. All right. So go back to our project. We do not have a reset.css, so let's right mouse click, add another style sheet that is reset. There is reset.css. We'll add what was shown here first. Again, I find that very hard to read, so I'm going to pretty it up a tad. And there's more to add, but we'll add that in a moment. Whoops. So what is it saying? It's saying for all of these tags, which are most of your major CSS tags, have no margin, no padding, no border. Set the font size to 100%, have it inherit from anything that was defined earlier, and set the vertical alignment to baseline. All right. Then it says for older browsers that do not understand the new HTML5 tags, all right, just do a display block for those. And set a default line height for our body to 1. Now that's it so far. Let's go back to our book. And let's go to the next page here and now add this stuff. So copy that. Come down to the bottom here, paste that in. This right here says if we have any lists, ordered lists or unordered lists, the list style is none, which means we don't want any dots or any numbers, anything. Block quotes and the Q tag, quotes are set to none, so we're not going to have any special formatting. Same kind of thing here. Tables, have them collapse, the size collapse as we cut it down, and have there be no border spacing. All right. Now, we want to next, so I want to save that because I've made major changes. All right. So I want to come in next, and just to show you this, let's go back into our bundle config. I'm going to grab this. All right. And you always want to do your reset before the one that you're adding. So I'm going to put in reset.css right there. So why are we doing all this stuff? Who cares? Remember, this is what it looked like. All right. You saw once we added the content.css, it didn't change. Now, let's see if it changes when we add the reset.css. So we're going to go back in here again. We're going to go back to our index page and open that in the browser. This is going to actually last a little longer. Sorry about that. Why isn't it showing any difference? It really should be. Well, let's go back. I'm going to stop the run here. All right, I have saved. I'm going to do a save all right there and make sure I've got it saved. All right, and bring this up again. See if we can figure out what that error is. Oh boy, there's a lot of errors. Namespace baby store could not be found. Well, that'd be a big problem to begin with. We got baby store right there. It's not giving us any errors in here, so that's interesting. All right, but yeah, it is right here. Are you missing a directive or an assembly reference? No, not that I know of. Constants does not exist. I don't know what the problem with that is. Let's try to run this again. No, we don't. Sorry, try to run that again. And say yes. Now this may not show any changes. That's the problem because it's not reflecting the changes that we've made, and that's unfortunate. So this is how it looked. Let's see in just a second if it looks any different by putting that reset in there. and it does not. Okay, well that's a shame. All right, what it should have done is it should have gotten rid of all, basically, I believe, the padding and the border, etc. around here. So that's how it should have looked different. I'm not sure why I'm getting these errors. All right, I'm getting a ton of warnings because it doesn't understand constants, and that was in there, and it doesn't understand baby store. Maybe this will fix itself up in the next chapter. I don't know. I can only hope. All right, but I want to finish this. I'm already at 25 minutes, so this is going to be a longer one. Sorry about that. We've got adding some basic formatting here. So the author says, let's add some basic formatting. What should have happened here is it should have done that. And again, you can see now that the padding and margin are gone because that's what the reset did. You want to always put the reset file before your content file that you've done, because otherwise you're going to overwrite your stuff with it. All right. So it says update the body entry in the store.css file for that. So we put that in. So let's put that in and take a look and see what that is. In English, this is saying that the background color of our body should be white. The maximum allowable width should be 1024 pixels. This says to center it on the screen. 0 auto means that. So no top and bottom margin, and our left and right should automatically be centered. All right. We should have a font size of 12 pixels. If possible, we should use an Arial font. If that's not available, a Helvetica font, and if that's not available, a sans serif. And this should be our font color. All right, so we put that in. Okay, and that's what should have happened, but it didn't change. Ours didn't because we've got an error in it. Hopefully that'll be fixed when we go to the next chapter. All right, again, just a couple more pages and literally we're done with the chapter. It says we are now going to jump straight into a more advanced topic. The idea is you want some animation, so we want our web page to fade in. So it says start by creating an animation named fade in, all right, and add the following code to the store.css file. So let's add that. When you do animations, by and large, you will end up starting with keyframes. And it says this code that's right here specifies that the animation should move from an opacity of 0, which means totally opaque, it's not visible, to an opacity of 1, which is fully transparent or visible. All right. And it says we should add a new style to apply animation to the HTML element. All right. Which will apply it then to the entire page. And it should fade in over a period of 2 seconds. Now, the author mentions here, in order to keep it simple, we're only going to focus on the latest version of Google Chrome, which basically applies everything, as much as possible. But for completeness sake, we should add the code that's shown on the bottom of 483 and the top of page 484. And the reason for that is that would target browsers other than Chrome. So you typically would put in this so that, for example, if you're using an earlier version of Firefox, and if you're using versions of Safari, Chrome, or Opera that are also later, that those, all right, would be able to handle it as well. All right. So this is saying do it for everybody. This is saying minus Moz, which means Mozilla, which means Firefox. This is minus WebKit, which handles Safari and Chrome because it has the same WebKit engine. And finally, they want us to add stuff for IE, etc. on the bottom here of the page. So this is on page 484 as we finish up this chapter. So we put this in as well. So that's what a lot of your work as a front-end developer will involve. And that is not only putting in stuff so that newer browsers can handle it, but also putting in things so that whatever you're trying to do won't blow up stuff in older browsers. And that's, and that's what this is doing right here. All right, so I'm going to save. All righty. So the author says here, this chapter gave a basic introduction to using CSS to style a website. It covered the basics that CSS is based on, those being selectors, inheritance, and the box model. Then we started to look at resizing. Okay? Now in just a minute, we're going to go on to the next chapter, chapter 15, which talks about styling the home page. Now I want to do one last thing before we finish, and that is I'm going to leave 13 up for a second. You saw what it all looked like, etc., and it wasn't correct. All right? But what I'd like to try to do, because this is what we do in the next chapter, is to go and copy everything from chapter 14. Again, this is hopefully, I think, yeah, but I'm going to change the name of this to just CH14. I'm going to try to bring this one up. And I'm going to run the home page and see if it does incorporate our changes. After we do that, I'll be back with chapter 15, which is a fairly short chapter, all right, in just a couple of minutes. So as this comes up, we want to go in again to views, and we want to come into our home index, and let's view this in the browser and see if this one looks any different. Again, we're getting those errors I sure as heck wish we weren't. So this was our one from chapter 13, and we'll leave that up for a minute. That's our one from chapter 14. Wow, that looks a lot different. All right. We'll come back and style the home page in the next lesson. Be right back.